Plaintiff Charity Mapps says she's always been great with kids. And during the pandemic, she opened an in-home daycare. Charity says the defendant's children were enrolled in her daycare, but she withdrew them without any notice, so Charity's suing. Defendant Faye Morrow says after her child's father was murdered last year, her daughter struggled with her grief, but counseling helped her to cope with the loss. Faye denies owing Charity for anything because she insists her daycare had several code violations.
All rise. This court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Greg Mathis presiding. You may now be seated.
Start with you.
Okay, well, I opened my at-home daycare during the pandemic. I've always been great with children, and I've always just had a niche and wanted to work with kids as a child. And I believe that it started whenever I lost my best friend when I was 5 years old. She died to an accidental drowning, and I wasn't there or anything like that. But my mom got me to understand that she's in heaven now and she's with God. So I just believe from that helped me be able to, just get that protectiveness and just that nature and love for children. And so I passed that on. And I did go to school for early childhood education. I have an associate's degree.
Oh, good.
Yes, I did.
Good.
And I love children. Even some of my old parents still to this day, if they're misbehaving, they use some of the things that I say, or they're like, Miss Charity said, we got to make those good choices, different things like that. So just with the kids that I have or had in the past, I don't just teach them just in an educational way. I also teach them about, different and valuable things about life and also about God and just how to be kind.
Okay, let me say this to you. I think you chose a great field, and I think it's going to be in the future, perhaps outside of your immediate family, that's going to be your most fulfilling part of your life. I can tell you that, because what's going to happen is you're going to start seeing these children when they become adults, and they're going to come back to you with success, because you'll probably over the years educate hundreds of young children. So you're going to have hundreds, if not thousands. My wife went to college for preschool education. Linda got her bachelor's degree, worked at a school as a preschool director for a few years, and then opened her own and built 5 of her own preschools, and was educating about nearly 1,000 a year. Now we're seeing them and they're Ivy League kids, and thank you, Miss Mathis, for all you did. I loved you. You made me interested in learning. So that's going to be so fulfilling for you. So I must tell you that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
And everybody listening, the most fulfilling part of your life, folks, I can tell you firsthand, is people coming back to you saying that your work with them or whatever you did that might have helped somebody, helped change them and made a big difference in their life. That's the most fulfilling part of this job for me. I know everybody wants me to entertain and have laugh and fun, and we do that. But the most important, the most fulfilling part is when I meet people and they say, you helped change my life, Your Honor. I heard your inspirational story. Or a mother says, I heard how to handle these children. Those are the things that are fulfilling, and it's going to be the same for you. So congratulations. And
thank you, Your Honor.
Miss Morrow, how long has she been a client?
Well, she came with me in July 2021. And then that ended September 3rd of 2021. So just a couple months.
What were the fees that you charged?
I was charging $125 for each child. She has 2 daughters, so they both were in my care. And then, so in total, that would be $250.
Per week, obviously.
Yes, each week, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what Linda charged, $125, but that was, 30 years ago. But hers were institutions and big buildings, and you needed a lot overhead, so that was part of it. But don't try to make it seem like we were overcharging those kids. Just because you don't know what to charge.
Right.
$200 or $175 a week, all right? Raise your price.
I've gone up, Your Honor.
There you go.
It's October.
Because she wouldn't pay you. You had to go take you had to increase your price to make up for her not paying you. Give me
listen.
Let me hear from you, young lady. Give me some background on yourself.
Hi, yes. So as she stated, I am a single mother of 2 little girls. I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. Unfortunately, last year, my 4-year-old's daughter's dad was murdered. And so to gun violence. And so he, with his passing, obviously we were grieving. And I wasn't with him during his passing. But it did affect us in the long run because he was an active father. He was always in her life, always picking her up, taking her to school. And then I was dating my 2-year-old daughter's dad at the time, but with so much grief, I just couldn't even continue the relationship. So then I put me and my 4-year-old in therapy. So I went to regular therapy. She went to play therapy because there's no shame in therapy at all. It's a great outlet. And now she completely understands that like her dad's in heaven with her papas and everybody else. That's
good. That's what Linda charged, the $125, but that was, 30 years ago. But hers were institutions and big buildings and needed
right.
a lot, overhead, so that was part of it. But try to make it seem like we were overcharging those kids.
Plaintiff Charity Mapps says the defendant's children were enrolled in her daycare, but Charity's suing because she withdrew them without any notice.
What was her initial reaction before you made it into counseling or therapy?
She's very smart, and she just cried for like the first 2 months. Like literally we'd be driving the car and she'd just scream like, I want my daddy, I want my daddy. And on Fridays, they would wear red shirts, like their spirit shirts. And so every time it was a Friday, she knew her daddy was coming to pick her up. And so every time I'd pick her up, she'd get mad at me and she was like, I don't want you, I want daddy. Like, daddy's supposed to come and get me. Like, she was talking, like she was of age. She was about to turn 3. And so she was very knowledgeable in the fact that like he is gone, like, but I did keep her in a routine as far as like still going over every other weekend to her grandparents' house, his parents' house, so that she could have some type of routine and steadiment. But I even got her.
What were the circumstances of her father's murder?
So he
someone
was killed.
He knew? Oh, you tell me.
He was shot 3 times, Your Honor.
All right.
Yes.
I want people to hear what you just said so that they'll know the effects. This is what happens when you kill the person, is that you destroy their family as well. They're 4-year-old now. You guys out there in the street, you know you got all these babies, and I know they watch me so I can talk to them. So, and they watch me because I talk their talk in their language. And so you all out there with all those kids, remember, something happened to you, that's how your child is going to be. Crying every day, screaming, riding in the car for months, if not years. So if you care about her, you care about your mama, then you be careful out there and stop that gun violence. So hopefully they're listening. Thank you for sharing with us how devastating it is to an entire family, because I can say this, both from experience and from just knowing people and knowing criminals all my life. They never think about the victim afterwards. But hearing this type of thing, we know now what the victims suffer from. And you guys, I know you don't know, because I didn't know, but now you see. And I'm glad you brought it to us today. All right, stay strong though. You've been strong otherwise, I'm sure. It appeared.
Yes, sir.
All right, good. And you give me the basis of the lawsuit.
So the contract states that a 2 weeks notice was supposed to be given, the contract that she signed. And not only was a 2 weeks notice was supposed to be given, but also that the remainder of the academic year, which would mean till May 2021, But with me already kind of seeing that, you know, there were payment issues and things like that, and I was trying to work through those issues beforehand, and just me realizing that she's struggling, I was going to just be lenient enough. With there being a holiday in September, I was only asking for the remainder of 3 weeks in September be paid. So that would be the $750. Okay. And she agreed that she would pay me September 10th, which was the following week on a Friday. And I never received a dime.
Did she call you?
No, I was just going to say that I didn't get a text message, anything like that, because I'm very nice and lenient and I work with my parents on anything. But if I don't know anything, then I can't work with you.
What was the last thing you heard from her?
For me, it was a generic message saying that that was their last day. Like, it saddens me to say that it's going to be their last day, and that her job was in jeopardy, but it didn't go along with the smart comments as far as like, you'll receive your payment with a smiley face of $750 next Friday. So I'm just like, is your job in jeopardy or are you working? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but since September 10th, when she didn't come with the money, what have the communications been since?
Oh, it's been nothing. No communication.
Okay, ma'am, let me hear from you.
Let me start by saying when I signed the contract, I had just got a brand new job. And when I got the new job, I had about 4 days to put them in school. And so I was looking around. She came highly recommended. I mean, my kids did learn from her. She was a great educator. And so when I decided to pull them, because my 2-year-old had a runny nose. And I mean, it was seasonal allergies. She wasn't contagious. Her sister wasn't sick. Like, it wasn't COVID. She didn't have a fever. And so it kind of became like a pattern, honestly. Like, she kept sending her, sending her home. I think she sent her home one time in the middle of the day, right after I got to work. So I had to leave work. And then it would be days where she was like, oh, well, she can't return the next day until her runny nose isn't running anymore. And so with that being said, I was like, okay, this is going to be an ongoing thing. My job was in jeopardy. I had to leave work after I only being there for an hour. And so I had to keep telling my employers, oh, I can't make it today. Like, yes, I understand you have to have alternate care, but getting alternate care within less than 24 hours is slim to none happening. And then as far as with the messaging, if you look on the evidence key on page 6 through 7, I posted the messages of what she was saying, and she got pretty aggressive. I gave her an amazing review. I thanked her for teaching my daughter so much. And then she goes just straight into like me having to pay her $750. And like I said, I was in a rush, so I did not read the contract. At that point, I probably would have signed anything as long as my kids could attend the school. So after she goes and reiterates that and says that it's $750, that's when I acknowledged that. But then she started to get rude and saying that I wasn't trying to pay her and that I'm getting over on her. And I hadn't even responded back to any of her messages.
Why?
So I'm like,
why hadn't you?
I hadn't seen them. They were only 10 minutes apart. Like, okay. I was at work.
Because I can say this, both from experience and from just knowing people and knowing criminals all my life. They never think about the victim afterwards. But hearing this type of thing, we know now what the victims suffer from. And you guys, I know you don't know, because I didn't know. But now you see.
Plaintiff Charity Mapps says the defendant's children were enrolled in her daycare, but Charity's suing because she withdrew them without any notice.
How about the next day? How about the next day?
Yes, so when I saw them, the minute I saw them, I stepped into the restroom and I responded back.
How long after she sent them did you do that?
Let's see, it has a timestamp on here.
You saying within minutes? Within minutes?
Within 20 minutes.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. All right, making sure it wasn't days.
Yeah, it wasn't days. It wasn't days, John. I responded back in 20 minutes.
Okay, because she gave the impression she never heard from you again. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, no, this is the same day. Yes, sir.
Okay, so as of September 10th, had there been an agreement that you would pay by then?
So I did agree that I was going to pay on September 10th, but then it was brought to my attention that she wasn't meeting certain guidelines within her child care daycare home. She was on the 3rd floor, and it's in the evidence as well. It states that in order to be on the 3rd floor, you have to have written approval from a fire marshal. and there was no written approval for a fire marshal. And then in order to run an at-home daycare, because my mom used to run one, you have to have a front door exit and a back door exit. There's only one exit.
Oh.
So that's a fire safety hazard.
Yeah.
So at this point,
yeah,
I'm realizing
and you knew. You took your child, yes you did. You just said your mother ran one and you quoted the law that your mother had to abide by. So I'm shocked that you would put your children in danger of death. Now that you're going to act like that. I found out, I came upon information. Well, if you came upon or you knew that information or you were looking for that. If I want to know about codes, I'm going to look before I put my child in there. Oh, I didn't have time. I was in an emergency. Well, I'm going to look the second day, third day, fourth day. Whenever I have time, I'm going to find that out if it's so important to me.
Your Honor, may I say something?
Yes.
I wasn't alive when my mother ran the daycare, Your Honor. So
you just gave me the knowledge. You just said you had the knowledge.
Because she told me that.
Yeah, well, that's all you need to do is have the knowledge. And your mother told you. You think your mother's a lie? You want to call your mom a lie?
No.
All right, then she was telling you the truth, and you knew it. So you knew, because your mama had told you. And your mama don't lie. Go ahead.
That's the mutual acquaintance that she was referred to. Her mother referred her to me from my goddaughter being her, my goddaughter's mom was her mom's boss at that time, knowing that I was running it at my at-home daycare. I have the approval from my apartment people that it was okay for me to do it. I'm not having
I advise you to be quiet about the issue of code violations. I've established something here, and the more you talk, the more you unravel the case that you had. Your apartment approved it, but the state licensing won't approve that, ma'am. Did you get a license for that?
If you have a certain amount of children.
How many did you have?
I only have 4.
And what does the state license say?
If you have under 4, then everything is okay.
There's no other regulations.
Well, I'm not licensed, so if I'm licensed,
let's move on, ma'am. Let's move on. You're hurting yourself as you talk. I'm going to allow you one last time, ma'am, to prove to me that the reason you withheld your children was the code because you began or withdrew because you began telling me the reason was because the child had a runny nose. And it's because she didn't want the child to come in with a runny nose, which was the right thing to do. That's why you withdrew your children and broke the contract.
Your Honor, it was a little bit of both. So I know what you said about my mom educating me on that, but my mom knew it was out of her apartment, but my mom has also heard of child care is being ran out of their apartment.
Yeah, but she's licensed.
My mother did not know it was on the 3rd floor. She didn't find out it was on the 3rd floor probably 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks before that, before I withdrew them because my stepdad went and picked up the girls and he is
handicapped. Ma'am, that's enough. So I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that, ma'am. You withdrew your children after you owed her money, and now you're blaming it on the code that you did not research before putting your children in. If that was a problem, why wouldn't you check that before putting your 2 children in? You have all the experience and knowledge from your mother. You should. The first thing I need to do is make sure they have 2 doors. Mama, what else I need to find out and understand? You ran daycares, and Mama, you're referring me to this woman. Please, September 10th. Had there been an agreement that you would pay by then?
So I did agree that I was going to pay on September 10th, but then it was brought to my attention that she wasn't meeting certain guidelines within her child care daycare home.
Plaintiff Charity Mapps says the defendant's children were enrolled in her daycare, but Charity's suing because she withdrew them without any notice.
Now, let's move to the part about the child. Let me explain that to you, or ask you first. Did you give her a doctor's explanation that said the runny nose was coming from allergies?
No, sir.
Okay, so you expected her in the middle of a deadly virus, which symptoms are just what you mentioned, part of.
Which, Your Honor, she had previously got a COVID test, and the COVID test came back negative.
The day before? The day before?
No, Your Honor.
Right, thank you. It has to be like the day before, not a month later. And so, sending a child home in the midst of a deadly pandemic because they show symptoms, a sniffle, is certainly enough. Let me explain something to you. My granddaughter has missed 2 weeks since school started back in August because of a runny nose. Yeah, I ain't complaining because I definitely don't want her at school giving anybody anything, whether it's the runny nose from the flu, from the cold, and certainly not a deadly virus. And so I'm sorry, ma'am, she did right by sending that child home. And all you other providers, if those children have cold symptoms, you do need to send them home until they come back without the cold symptoms. And it's our responsibility to make sure our children are safe without any type of viruses. And, you know, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed every time my granddaughter gets a cold, a sniffle. Because I'm like, my goodness, give her some vitamin C, y'all. Do something. We see missing school here. But nothing we can do. And I can't tell my kids what to do with their baby. So if they don't want to give them no vitamin C or watch and see why she keeps getting the cold, fine. I just keep paying the bill. Have a good day. Judgment for your claim, ma'am. I'll grant your claim. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Good day, Your Honor.
This all could have been resolved had I just got my money, regardless of any codes she found out.
Get those codes updated, sweetheart.
Get a job.
I have one. Thanks, love.
Stay employed.
Plaintiff Benji Hickman and his fiancée Brooklyn Maytovey say after Benji lost his wife and kids in a house fire, he became addicted to meth. Benji got clean a year ago after losing custody of his children with Brooklyn, and he's suing the defendant for a refund on a car. Defendant Harold Thompson was born with a birth defect, which he still gets made fun of for to this day. Harold claims as a result he too turned to meth, but he has now been clean for 7 years. He's countersuing for emotional distress.
Let's start with you.
I'm from a small town in Oklahoma, Wilson, Oklahoma. In 2012, I had a house burned down, and I lost my wife and kids in there. Wow. And I went a little crazy there for a minute, and then I got on drugs. I stayed on drugs for a while. I met her in 2018, which we had some kids together, and we lost them to the DHS, and we're working hard right now trying to get them back. We're going through all kinds of counseling and visitations and drug tests and all that, hair follicles. And, you know, that's the reason why we was buying the car to start with, to get back and forth to them places.
Okay. How long you say you've been clean?
A year now.
How did you get clean?
Pretty much the only way I really figured out to do it is cold turkey. And then go to your, you know, your classes help a lot too. Your group meeting and your individuals and.
Okay. That's treatment. Help. All right. Well, that's treatment. All right. It's good that you all are getting treatment, because that's exactly what that is when they're talking to you and when you're doing, taking the test. If you're getting therapy at the same time, or counseling, or even NA, then you're getting treatment. I just want to make sure that you all have done your best.
Yeah, we're going through all kinds of classes.
Okay. Well, keep going. Otherwise, you are likely to relapse. Most people that don't go to NA, they typically relapse, even though they've been to treatment. Certainly in the first 10 years, if you're not going to NA, because, you know, you're not getting that reinforcement of sobriety that you need. So that's my advice to you.
Defendant Harold Thompson sold a car to the plaintiff, but the plaintiff says he wants a refund because the car broke down and didn't have a clean title.
Sir, you want to give me some background?
I was born with a neurological foot disease. At a young age, I've had 5 surgeries, one of them being on Christmas Eve as a child. That was real hard, emotional. Kids made fun of me. Even as an adult, I get made fun of because of the way I walk. I can't walk straight.
Who makes fun of you as an
Just
adult?
the general public. You can go to a store and you can see people looking at you because you're walking funny.
Well, how do you know they're making fun? They're making fun. They could be sympathetic or just making an observation of something they haven't seen before.
Well, emotionally, it takes a toll on you.
And that's because you may be misinterpreting it. That's my point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so don't look at it necessarily as that. Some folks might be looking, I know you don't want sympathy either, but some folks might be looking just out of curiosity as well. All right, what else you want to tell me about yourself?
I'm a truck driver now.
Good.
At the age of 18, they told me I wouldn't be walking past the age of 21. I've overcome that.
Now you drive for a living.
Yes.
That's good. Good.
I got a divorce and when I was 23, I got on drugs real hard. Was on drugs a few years, and I've been clean now 7 years.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for making that effort. And 7 years is a long time for a recovering addict. And so you're on your way to long term, if not lifelong sobriety, I believe, with that amount of time. What type of drugs did you use?
I did meth.
Okay.
It's very easy to see it out in public now and be thankful that I don't do it.
All right. And tell me about the car. What happened here to cause you to want a refund?
I got a phone call from.
And let me stop. I do want to ask. I don't want to go over. I'm sorry. I don't want to gloss over your tragedy. That's the biggest thing I've heard in this case. So why don't you tell me about your tragedy? What happened with your family? And
in 2012, my wife woke me up and said there was a house fire. She said the house is on fire, and I said, go call 911. And I lived right next to my mom and dad. So she run out to call 911, and the kids' room was engulfed in flames. I couldn't get in the door, so I ran outside and I was going to the window and see if I could get them out the other side of the room. You know what I mean? And that's why I seen the room was totally engulfed in flames. It was gone, and I guess my wife had went over there and knocked on the wall, my parents' wall. And then she come back and she went back in the trailer. And I didn't know she went back in the trailer because if I would have, I'd went in there with her and laid down beside her. But she went back in and she went with them.
Sorry to hear that, sir. And
I didn't find out till I had burns and smoke inhalation, and I didn't find out till I got out of the hospital. When I got out of the hospital, the medical examiner met me outside and told me, I mean, I already knew the kids was gone, but he told me my wife was gone too. My daughter was born on my birthday. 7 years later, she died on my birthday. It all happened on my birthday.
you lost your family on your birthday.
Yeah.
Your entire family. You're the first case that I've ever had that I would say I might have done the same thing. Relating to drugs and heavy drugs, I might have done the same thing to relieve that trauma and that pain.
It ate me up for a long time, but I just had to learn to start living in the future and not living in the past.
Yeah, yeah. All right, sorry to hear that, and I guess this gives us another opportunity to explain to our viewers that it's not always recreational drug use leading to addiction. There's also, in my opinion, the most prevalent reason for drug addiction. I think the most prevalent is to reduce the pain and trauma that one feels mentally. And that pain and trauma comes from incidents in their lives, whether it's abuse as a kid, whether it's abandonment, which is abuse, or the trauma, particular trauma, or whether it's using drugs to escape the pain of poverty and escape your condition. When you're impoverished, it's painful. And it's particularly painful for men to not be able to provide for their family. And these kids are looking at you, Daddy, I need this. Daddy, I want that. Why can't I get it? Such and such got new gym shoes. Such and such got a bike. So at one point, you just say, hey, this is too much. Let me go and start getting high to relieve this. And this is the real deal, y'all. This is real life trauma. And thank you all for allowing us to know that this leads to uncontrollable reactions, and yours was drugs to address that trauma.
Defendant Harold Thompson sold a car to the plaintiff, but the plaintiff says he wants a refund because the car broke down and didn't have a clean title.
The refund on the car, so let's get to that finally. How does he owe you for a refund on the car?
All right, Your Honor. I got a call from a friend, and he told me there's a car over the wrong road. And I went over there. We went over there and we looked at it. It was, as far as the body and the shape of it goes, it was a super nice car. You couldn't tell it wasn't brand new.
What year was the car?
It was a 2005 Lincoln MKZ.
Okay.
It's a 2007 Lincoln MKZ.
Okay. Go ahead. You loved it? It was beautiful? It looked fine? Did you ask about anything in particular when you bought it?
He started the car and let it sit there and idle, and it sounded all right. And so she said she really, really wanted it. And we called. We done separated from each other. And we called back and we said, yeah, hey, we're interested in the car. So anyway, he said he would deliver it the next morning. The next morning he showed up and we gave him $1,000 cash and $1,100 on a PayPal card. And it didn't sound like it did when I heard it the day before. It sounded a little rougher. So 2 days later, we're on our way to visitation to the kids. We're on our way to see the kids, visitation. It's court ordered and it's a set time that we have to be there, you know what I mean? And we was driving to visitation and the car broke down. So we had to get another ride on into town because if we're late 15 minutes, then we don't get to visitation with our kids. So we had to catch a ride on into town. We was gone 2 hours to come back, and the police was at the car. I went up there and they was saying this and that, and they were waiting on the impound truck. I pulled out the title. Well, the policeman looked at the title and he said, he can't sell you this car. It's not even his name. It's not even his car to sell.
What page is the title on?
Page 1. And right then and there, he took it as I was not the owner of that car, and he went ahead and impounded it. Once at the impound yard, they wouldn't even let us go in there and get none of our stuff out of the car because it wasn't in our name. And my fiancée had been talking back and forth, texting back and forth to his wife or his girlfriend, and they got the messages here. But we offered them $1,500. We said, hey, we'll give you $1,500, and we'll leave that other $600 that we gave you for you to go get it out of impound because we can't get it out.
His wife offered me $75 back on the entire purchase of the car.
What did she say that was supposed to cover? Or was she being funny? What was she saying that should cover? $75.
Trying to be funny.
Right.
And after that, she just kept arguing, saying, you can go get it out of the impound, and you can get it tagged and legal.
Okay. Let me hear from you.
Yes, sir. I posted the MKZ on the Facebook in July. The end of July, they contacted me. We met up, showed them the car, started it, told them everything that was wrong with it. The next day, I told them I'd deliver it. You know, they were having problems getting all the cash, so we took PayPal and cash. About 3 weeks later is when after we delivered it, is when we got contacted from them about it being impounded.
He said the engine went out in 3 days or 2 days. You know anything about that?
It's an as-is purchase.
No, I'm asking you a question. Do you know of the engine going bad 2 days after this as-is purchase? Do you have any evidence of when it went bad?
On page 3, towards the bottom of the page, I asked something about, I said, hey, your husband said he was going to come and put some sensor on the car, because that's when the car started messing up initially. And then it just progressively got worse.
He wasn't telling the truth. He wasn't telling the truth about, he told me everything was wrong with the car because the cam shafts were bad.
All that can be wrong, and he doesn't owe you a dime. If all that is wrong and it's as is, the only issue I'm trying to get to is how long was it after purchasing that the engine went out? He says 3 weeks. That's a big difference. It was August 10th. That's a big difference in an as-is purchase.
Defendant Harold Thompson sold a car to the plaintiff, but the plaintiff says he wants a refund because the car broke down and didn't have a clean title.
What's your counterclaim for?
Emotional distress. My wife is beside herself. We were trying to do things, you know, making side money, flipping cars, and it's just made her all kinds of distress.
Okay, so because your wife is beside herself, you want $1,500. How about you? Where are you at with yourself?
I've lost my job. I mean, I've lost days at work.
No, are you beside yourself or away from yourself?
Do what?
She has to sue. That's my point. I'm asking what happened to you.
Well, my loss of time at work, my stress of having to deal with all this. I've gone to the tow truck company.
What about the title? He says you did not give them a clean title.
I gave them a clean title. It was notarized. It was not in my name, but it was ready to be transferred.
How can you sell them something that's not in your name?
I've done it. I've had bought cars that way many a time.
All right, you've sold things that weren't in your name?
Yes.
When you buy a car, you get a title before you can flip it. You can't flip anything until you get a title.
I've never put them in my name.
Right.
I've always got.
How can you own something that's not in your name, sir? I see the problem here. He's selling other people's things. You didn't even own this car. Have a good day. Your claim is dismissed. Sorry that your wife is beside herself. Tell her to get herself together because you violated the law, committed fraud, and you admittedly do that all the time. And so your judgment is granted for $2,100 and yours is dismissed. Have a good day.
Thank you, Your Honor. I don't know, he thought I was a sucker, and you sold me a car. You knew that motor was bad.
No, that motor ain't bad. It's
I delivered it on a trailer.
Yeah, I think you delivered on the trailer that day that you had on the.
No, my buddy had a trailer. We were going to get a car out there by your house. The only reason why that trailer was ever there.
That was the best looking piece of junk I've ever owned.